Welcome to the PCHL Weekly Show, where we look at the latest scores, highlights, standings, and stats from the Premier Canadian Hockey League and check in on the other top Canadian franchise hockey leagues. We started November with an upset as the Surrey Tigers came back to beat the visiting Montreal Loyalists 3-2 thanks to a Carlo Gagnon power play goal with less than 4 minutes to play. Alexander Huard had a hat-trick as the St. Pats beat the Steelhawks 6-1. The Montreal Patriots also came from behind for a 3-2 win over the Toronto Titans, with Chad Taylor getting the game winner on the power play with less than a minute on the clock. And finally, it took a shootout, but the Quebec Glaciers got the win on home ice with a 3-2 final over the visiting Mississauga Mutants. The sole game on November 2nd saw the Winnipeg Falcons host the Vancouver Seawolves. The Falcons jumped out to a 4-0 lead early in the second period and held on to the 4-2 win. It was a rare poor performance from Gustafsson in net for the Seawolves as he surrendered 4 goals on just 28 shots. Our first looking at the action comes for the November 3rd game, with the Glaciers heading to Halifax to take on the Privateers. Just 3 minutes into the game, and Thomas Jonas decides to go for a skate as he dances around Rouvel, and then Galipeau took it all alone and rifles it in with the Glaciers up 1-0. The Privateers tied it up before the intermission, before taking the early lead in the second, as William McDuff is able to find the rebound twice and put it home on the second attempt. The teams exchanged a couple more goals in the second period, so we went to the third with the Privateers up 3-2. But just a minute in, Durocher throws the puck at the net, Weinberg misplays it, and we are back at even. That's the way it would stay until the end of regulation, and overtime proved pointless, so it went to a shootout. After both goalies made a couple saves, Kelby Pierre was the first to draw blood as he pulls it to the backhand to beat Weinberg. Needing to score to keep the game going, Galipeau decides he likes Pierre's move, and it works. After Brandon tries the same move for the third time in a row, Weinberg knows it's coming and makes the save. That gives Zerbuchin the chance to win it, and this time the move is to the forehand, which gives him a couple of inches above Pierre's shoulder, and Zerbuchin finds it and ends the game and gives the Privateers the extra point. Another Monday night action, the Brampton Blazers beat the struggling Toronto Titans 3-1. Russell Thorstenson had 2 goals and an assist as the Edmonton Black Barons beat the Mississauga Mutants. And Joey Arsenault had 2 goals and 2 assists as the Montreal Loyalists got back to winning ways with a 5-3 win over the Calgary Outlaws. Our game of the night for November 4th saw a battle of contending teams as the Winnipeg Falcons went to Montreal to take on the Loyalists. Montreal opens the scoring in the first as Chashnikov turns the puck over at the blue line, leading to a quick 2-on-1 in tight. Holloway gets the goal, and Romanzanov and Mancini the assists. Late in the period, the Loyalists are on the forecheck again. This time it's Brendan Beers who causes the turnover and fires it past Smith to double the Loyalists' lead. In the second now, Romanzanov gets his second point of the game and second point of the season as he picks up the puck all alone in the neutral zone and turns on the Jets before a quick move to the forehand gives him enough room to put it past the blocker. The Loyalists added 1 more in the third to make it a 4-0 win and take the 3 points to move them into first place ahead of the St. Pats, who themselves were shutout losers to the Vancouver Seawolves in a 4-3 final. Elsewhere, Jens Ahrens and Julien Potvin each had 2 points in the Black Barons' 4-3 victory over the Hamilton Steelhawks. The Mississauga Mutants' struggles continued with a 4-2 loss to the Surrey Tigers. Gerbrandt made 38 saves to help the Patriots to a 2-1 win over the Glaciers. And finally, the Calgary Outlaws got the extra point in a 4-3 shootout win over the Privateers. Wednesday night saw the Battle of the Lower Mainland reignite. Jordan Walsh got the overtime winner on the Tigers' 51st shot of the night, and Colin Gibb had 2 in the second period to send the visitors home with the 2 points. The St. Pats were outplayed in every aspect of the game as the Ottawa Dominion took a dominant 6-0 win. It was then a busy Thursday night of hockey. The Black Barons went to Toronto and beat the Royals 5-2, thanks in part to a 3-point night from Adrian Balder. Blazers had 2 third-period goals and 40 saves from Corbin Shattuck to beat the Falcons 4-2. The Ottawa Dominion scored with less than 90 seconds remaining to get the 4-3 win in Halifax. The Mississauga Mutants moved to level on points with the Steelhawks after beating them 3-1. And finally, the Toronto Titans picked a good time to turn things around as they beat the Glaciers 2-1. In Friday night action, the Toronto Royals doubled up the Hamilton Steelhawks 6-3, thanks in part to a goal and an assist and a +3 performance from Alexander Gagnon. St. Pat's gave up a 2-goal lead late, but got the extra point in a shootout against the Patriots. Peter Edwards had a 3-point night for the Loyalists as they took down the Seawolves 3-2, And finally, Ian Giodo scored 30 seconds into overtime to get the Blazers the extra point against the Falcons. It was a quiet hockey night in Canada, but the Patriots did help their bid to avoid a franchise-altering relegation with a 4-2 win against the newcomer Mutants. And Aaron Murphy and Philippe Aubu each had 3 points to help the Surrey Tigers surprise the visiting Loyalists. On Sunday, the Steelhawks beat the Seawolves 2-1. The Tigers got 2 third-period goals to keep their momentum going and beat the Dominion 3-1. Jordan Weinberg made 27 saves as the Privateers shut out the Falcons in a 3-0 win. And finally, Jonathan Dubé and Brendan Jacobs each had 5-point nights as the Royals dominated the Outlaws 9-5. Moving into the second week of this update, Daniel Nemec scored the overtime goal as the Steelhawks won a tight battle with the Mutants. Andrew Camponi got the game winner in the third for the Loyals over the struggling Dominion. And Miles Paul had 2 goals for the Titans in their 3-1 win over the Outlaws. On Remembrance Day, the Winnipeg Falcons got a 5-2 win in Montreal over the Patriots, with Gabriel Tessier getting 2 goals and 2 assists. The Halifax Privateers scored an empty net goal to make it a 4-2 final over the Tigers. And finally, the Royals kept scoring as they beat the Black Barons 6-2, with this time being Felix Santerre, who had a 3-point night. On Wednesday, Elliot Thomason made 20 saves to get the shutout for the Black Barons in their 2-0 win over the Privateers. The Mutants moved within 1 point of the Steelhawks after beating them 3-1. The Titans seem to have gotten through their rough patch with another win, this time 6-4 over the Privateers. And Peter Mrazek had a goal and an assist and was +2 to lead the Seawolves over the Glaciers. Our game of the week saw a Battle of Toronto and one of the biggest rivalries in Canadian hockey reignite as the Titans and Royals battled at Maple Leaf Gardens. The scoring got underway with Santerre leading the rush down the wing and finding a streaking Dubé, who blew past the Titan defenders and fired it past Dupont to put the Royals in front. On that line's next shift, it would look like deja vu, but they brought Jacobs in on the far side as he set up Dubé for the one-timer. At the start of the second, the Titans got one back as Wade Taper used his speed to blow past the defenders and find Miles Paul crashing the net. But the Royals got the 2-goal lead back just 30 seconds later, as this time Jacobs teams up with Santerre on a 2-on-1, with Santerre finishing the give and go as Dupont hit hard on the fake shot from Jacobs. The Royals would add one more, and Dyke would shut down the Titans the rest of the way to make it a 4-1 final for the home team, and put those Toronto rivals on an even 35 points in the standings. Elsewhere in Thursday night action, Philippe Aubu and Christopher Pongratz each had 3 points to help the Tigers overcome the Mutants. The St. Pats held off the Blazers for a 4-2 win. 3 second-period goals skated the Seawolves to an upset of the Falcons. Verval made all 18 saves in a dominant Loyalist performance against the Steelhawks in a 3-0 win. And finally, Stefan Jankula was named Player of the Night for his 4-point performance, but it wasn't enough as the Outlaws came back with 3 third-period goals to get the win on home ice and bring these teams tied on points. Finally, on November 14th, the Patriots got a point but fell in overtime to the Black Barons. Louis-Charles Primeau scored twice, but the Falcons lost in a shootout to the Royals. After the Tigers tied it up in the third, Christopher Galipeau got the winner in the last minutes of the game to give the Privateers a 3-2 win. Even closer to the end of the game, Tony Cosman scored with just over 1 minute to go after Jonas Kelly tied up the game just a few minutes earlier to give the Dominion a much-needed win over the Blazers in an exciting finish to 2 weeks of action. Checking in on the standings, we see that the Montreal Loyalists still sit in pole position for the league title with 48 points from 21 games, thanks in large part to their number one goaltender Verval, who has a stunning 1.34 goals against average and a .951 save percentage, and the team has an impressive 12-0 record at home. 6 points back are the St. Pats, but with a game in hand. These two teams continue to be separating themselves from the pack. However, it is very tight from 3rd through 9th, and as we're about a third of the way through the 60-game season, there's still plenty of time for any one of these teams to go on a roll and close that gap. In that group are the Halifax Privateers, who lead the league with 75 goals for, thanks in part to league leader William McDuff's 14. Also worth keeping a close eye on are the Toronto Royals, who are in the midst of a 5-game winning streak. At the other end, it's a 3-way battle to avoid relegation. The Mutants, Steelhawks, and Patriots are all within a win of each other. The Mutants have been particularly snake-bitten in overtime in the shootout, as they failed to pick up the extra point in all 5 games needing extra time. The Steelhawks and Patriots are both especially hoping their teams can turn around at home, as both have only won 2 games on home ice so far this season. Checking in on the CEHL now, the Lemon Cavaliers lead the pack with a 16-1-4-0 record, but it's the Sherbrooke Corsairs who have been on a tear, winning now 7 in a row, and you can't overlook the Victoria Admirals, who have played 2 fewer games and boast a league-best plus 25 goal differential. At the other end, Windsor only managed to win 1 game in the past 2 weeks, then went on to lose the next 6 in a row. Their 0-3 shootout record is just one of many challenges they're having this season. Now, at a third of the season done, let's check in on the teams eyeing to take the spot from the Red Wings right now. In the West, it is a battle of Edmonton teams, with the Sea Turtles leading the way with an 11-point lead over the Navigators. In the Ontario Trillium League, it is the Barhaven Tribe currently leading the way, although it is a tight league with the top 5 teams all ending week on losing streaks. And out east, the Coachella Green Dragons, Mercier River Bandits, and the Montreal Hurricanes are separated by just 2 points. As a reminder, the winners of each of these leagues, plus the last place team in the CEHL, will face off in a tournament as part of the Canadian Hockey Super Week at the end of February to determine who moves up or stays in the second division. Tune in next time to see if the Loyalists and St. Pat's can keep their top spots in the Canadian Premier Hockey League, or if one of the other teams is able to bring themselves back into contention. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss it, and keep your stick on the ice.